Everything I've seen as an indicator has said the supply of housing coming on the market is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger going into 2025. I was going over my personal expenses owning a house, and I've noticed that the cost to own property is just going up and up and up. It's kind of like when you turn the heat up on a pot with a lobster in it, and he doesn't quite know it's getting too hot until it's too hot. I've had many clients recently as a real estate agent come and say, hey, I got a 3% mortgage, and my payment is really low, but my insurance has tripled. Or the cost of that roof I'm about to pay for because the insurance company is going up, up, and up. Hey, the lawn guy is going up. The attorney is going up. Everybody's going up. And we're getting to that point right now where that 7-year interval of where most mortgages live and die, most people hold a property, a mortgage for about 7 years, and then they roll it over. Well, we're at 4, 5, 3, 4, 5 in that interval, and we're starting to just see properties turn over. And I believe that there is a movement in the government right now is to get rid of that poison pill, which was the 3% mortgage. Some people, if you were lucky, had a sub 3%. But if they turn the pot up high enough, pretty soon they get rid of it. We're seeing a lot of people just HELOCing these properties because the equity in them is so high that they're pulling the equity to pay for things in life because inflation is just gotten so many people. Here's the poison pill on the HELOCs, and a lot of people don't understand. They just think they can use it like a checkbook. But some of those HELOCs get called due. Those lines of credit just get, terminated all of a sudden. And the length of the amount of time you can have one of those HELOCs outstanding is pretty short, and you got to pay it back. A lot of people get caught in this situation. That's why Dave Ramsey says never to do it. That's why me, as an investor, I never use my house as a piggy bank. Any of that debt is just no bueno. I know a lot of people think they're this great investor and that's how you do it. That's not how rich people do it. They make the money, they take the money that they made, they buy real estate with it, which makes them some more money. We don't do that. Try to stay away from these HELOCs, especially if you don't have the cash to back it up. The guys that do use these HELOCs, they have cash in reserves, and they can, if the note's called or the HELOC's called, they can remedy that situation. But if you don't have cash laying around, don't use your house as a piggy bank. It's a really good way to lose it. Credit card default rates are going up, and they're using this HELOC to pay for the other things. One of the guys I know stopped me the other day about using a HELOC, and it came into my head that this is starting to happen. People are using it to buy cars. Cars are more expensive. Everything is more expensive. Food is more expensive. I was going down the list of things in my life that have gone up just off the top of my head. Insurance, my car and my house. My house went up 30%. My insurance for my truck doubled. Grass cutting. Guy wanted an absurd amount, didn't even want to show up. And I was like, you know what, I'll cut it myself. Food is up by a lot. I don't talk to my wife a lot about how much food is, but she tells me, and it's astonishing what a steak costs now. Go to Taco Bell. The number 6 is almost $14. It used to be like $5, $6 when I was in college. It just keeps going up, 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 and up. My cell phone went up. My taxes on my home went up the max amount they possibly could with homestead exemption. I mean, childcare. Don't get me started on that. If you can get it, if you can't get it, it's super expensive if you can get it, or if you can get it at all, and you just get what they give you because there's no other options. Clothes, super expensive. Clothes are outrageously expensive. I just do t-shirts. Small businesses are starting to collapse because everything is more expensive. Just as a real estate agent, dues went up because NAR got sued to oblivion. The state licensure went up. The MLS dues went up in every sector. My tax guy went up. My lawyer went up. Everything across the board has gone up. If I hire a contractor for my property or any of my other properties, he's gone up if he'll even show up. All these upgrades, the insurance company demanding more things has made roofs super expensive. It made installing solar panels super expensive. They've made everything in a transaction has gotten crazy. I look across the board and I'm like, sooner or later, people have to move out of these places, and they're slowly starting to transition. We're almost back. I think we're 600,000 houses short of pre-pandemic numbers. Okay, I think 1.8 million on market. We need like another 600,000 to get to those pre-pandemic numbers. We're seeing supply coming on the market. I think we're seeing the supply starting to creep up to the point now, like in my little neighborhood, there's 16 houses for sale. And when you're starting to look at the comparables across the market, and there's more options available, and there's less buyers in the market, not to mention the whole NAR thing has got buyer's agents not knowing what to do. So the market has gotten lethargic and more lethargic and more lethargic to the point where I think next month and next month and the next month we're going to see this jump. Sales going down, the number of closed transactions go down, because everything in real estate, the data is backwards pedaling. It's very slow to report. And if you believe the numbers between FAR and NAR and all these other associations, some of these numbers are just like, I don't believe them. But we're seeing the amount of properties come on the market go up, 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 and up, and you're starting to see prices getting cut. I think 20% of the properties on the market right now, 1 in 5, are seeing price cuts. I know I'm seeing on the properties I'm dealing with, because people have just said, I'm not going to pay that. We have reached that inflection point to where people are like, I just can't pay for that. And the amount of people that can qualify for it, I mean, when you got to make over 6 figures to get the average house now, and wages are not going up, we've started to hit that point where it's just not going to happen. But inflation and the rising cost of everything is just going to eventually get rid of the 3% mortgage. And I think they're doing that on purpose, because it has hurt the economy so much, because it happened so fast that the market just couldn't digest it, and real estate prices just went through the roof. Now, let me bake in the bad part about this. I was looking at the Harris campaign's idea of what they're going to do to solve real estate. So we're seeing supply come up, and they're saying they're going to force feed 3 million properties to be built and put on the market. And then they're going to put a cap on goods or price gouging. And we all know when the government messes with supply on anything, that's how we got here. And then you put a cap on prices when the cost to manufacture keeps going up, and then you say, well, you can only make so much on that product, you will see a shortage of that product. You could see, yeah, we're going to start 3 million houses, but the PVC manufacturers say, well, we're not going to make the pipes because the cost to do this is just too expensive. We're not going to make the Romex. We're not going to make the plywood. We're not going to make the asphalt. We're not going to make the refrigerators. We're not going to do all these things. And let's say they just restricted the food. Well, you're going to see a shortage in the apple production because the cost of fertilizer went up for the trees for the apples, or the cost of carrots, the fertilizer for the carrots, or the tractor parts to make the plowing of the fields for the carrots, or for whatever it may be. I just don't understand how you mess with the market, and a politician's good idea theory is always the problem. Instead of letting the market collapse and correct itself, we flood it with cash, which creates these implosions, and the middle class should be absolutely furious because they turn the water up, called inflation, to the point where the middle class American cannot afford anything. I look across the board and I'm wondering, how are people affording this stuff? And I realize it's credit cards, it's HELOCs, it's barely getting by, to the point where, and this is what the Fed tries to do. Can't fight the Fed because they mess with interest rates, and the point is to create unemployment, to create stagnation, to turn down the economy to the point where they can start bringing down interest rates. And that's what we're seeing. They know the economy is ready to break, and they blinked, and they're bringing down interest rates. And that brings me to my next one. If you start lowering interest rates in a supply-constrained market like real estate, you're going to see properties start to move again. And if they never corrected, if you don't let them to correct, the market to correct, it's just going to keep going up. And they were at the point where we're starting to see correction. But politicians, and I'm going to stay on politicians because behind every bad idea is a politician, is that they think they can either create incentive, and that the $25,000, I wrote that one down, $25,000 first-time home buyer incentive. What is that? You're putting the ability to purchase into the market, and now you're gonna have a wave of free money out there making properties $25,000 more. They're just going to price it in. And then you're going to have rent caps on top of that. I think you're going to see this. So you're seeing this stirring of the waters. You're going to have, big entities say, hey, I can't operate with those rent caps, or mom and pop landowners or homeowners are just going to, instead of renting them out, they're just going to let them go because the insurance keeps going up. But yet you're telling me how much I can offer my property for rent, but my taxes, insurance, liability, everything goes up. That's not fair. And the whole idea of patent seizures should scare people to death. There was a really good book written a long time ago called Atlas Shrugged. And when they took the patents, the government took patents in order to force things. It's who is John Galt? Those people that were producing the goods needed to keep the country functioning will leave. It is not the answer. In conclusion, politicians really have to figure out how to get rid of these corporations zapping up properties at an alarming rate. Because as interest rates come back down, they're going to start it again. They are going to pump so much liquidity into these houses, like in Atlanta. I think I saw some kind of staggering number, like 60% of the properties that the properties are owned in downtown Atlanta are corporations. And that should infuriate everybody in Atlanta that is wanting a home, that they're being bought up by corporations. And they need to break up these large corporations and say, hey, anything over 50 in an entity is too many. And, that just creates its own set of problems because it is such a complex conversation. Remember, every bit of data you see is given to us by the government, and you got to really question that stuff, and question it hard, because when they tell you that inflation is not real, but when you go to the store and everything I buy for my family has gone up 30, 40, 50% or doubled, you got to really say, somebody's lying to us. And that just filters over into everything else, because the contractor, the concrete layer, all those people are raising their prices outside of the actual house itself to fix the house or build the house or extend onto the house. They've got to feed their families too, and their prices keep going up. So the cost to duplicate that property is continuously going up. We really have to put these things in check if we really hope for the next generation to own a home. Because as it is right now, they're going to be 50 before they can own their own home if they start at zero and don't have their parents help out by buying them a house now. Really got to fix the insurance problem, especially on the Gulf Coast, because it seems like Congress, legislature, the state legislature, the governor is not trying to fix it. They're so far in with these insurance lobbying companies, and it just keeps upping and upping the cost of ownership to the point where only rich people, they'll own all the properties and they'll insure them themselves or with their own ability to insure, and the average home buyer is not going to be able to afford the cost of ownership. I mean, it is crazy that 40% or more of somebody's income is just to stay out of the rain. And I just don't see how we're going to fix this if we keep changing the rules of how the game is played instead of letting it correct. If you made a dumb mistake buying a property, you should have to pay for it. And the problem is that these banks don't want to lose money, so therefore they keep the legislature doing this circle of life thing, that they just keep upping the price of properties to the point where only corporations are going to own them all. See you guys on the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down with your thoughts. See you on the next one.